All right, so now what we want to do, we have our types, our type filter being updated. We're going to modify this to make it look better, but first I actually want to make it filter the results by whatever I click here. So I need to check to see if these types match what's going on up here, or at least one of them. But if there are two, type filters, I want to make sure that they all exist in there. So what I'm going to do to make this as simple as possible, the first thing I'm going to do is write a function outside of here, and it's going to be comparing two lists. So we're going to say function filter matched, and we're going to be comparing the type filter, which is going to be a string array, with the types, which is also going to be a string array. And our goal here, and this is going to return a Boolean. Our goal here is we want to check inside the type filter. We're going to say, we have to iterate through the type filter. So we'll say for let I equals 0, I is less than type filter dot length I plus plus. And then I need to see if this exists in the types. So I need to see types dot includes, and then we're going to say type filter I. So this is going to tell us whether it includes it or not. And if it doesn't include it, then we want it to return false. So we'll say if not this, return false. However, if it survives through the entire type filter and it finds all of those types, we're going to return true at the end. So this will also handle if the type filter is empty, because if the type filter is empty, it's not going to iterate and it's just going to return true, and that's fine. And I believe, I'm trying to think of the logic here, double check in my head. This makes sense in my head, but sometimes you just have to go through and kind of look through it carefully. So it's going to iterate through the type filter. So for example, if I have grass in the type filter, and we're comparing Bulbasaur, who's grass poison, it's going to say, does grass poison include grass, which is true. So in that case, it's not going to hit this, and it's going to continue going. Now, if both grass and poison are there, then it should check both and find them both to be true. Okay, I think this should work how I want it to. So what we're going to do is we need to create a new array, actually. Create a new array, and it's going to be a filtered array. So I'm just going to change detail to filtered. Same data type as Pokemon details. And then I need a new use effect, and this is going to update. If you remember, the way use effect updates, if I leave it blank, it only runs when the page initially loads. However, if I put values or variables in here, it'll run anytime those variables are updated. So I wanted to check both when Pokemon detail array updates or when type filters updates. And this is why this is an array, because I can check multiple variables. So if the filters get updated, so when the page initially loads and the Pokemon detail array comes in, it's going to update. When the type filters are changed, it's also going to update, and both of those are good. We want it to update on either of those. And then what we're going to do is set Pokemon filtered array, and it's going to be Pokemon detail array dot filter. And what filter does, it's a function that takes a callback function, and it's going to filter by certain things. So it's going to basically, we're going to pass in, this is going to represent each Pokemon in the list. And then it's going to check a condition here. And if this condition is true, then it's going to be included. If it's false, it's going to be excluded. So now I just run my function filtered match, filter matched, and I need to pass in the type filter. I guess type filters. I should call it type filters, to be honest. Just for alignment purposes. It's not necessary, but why not? And the second thing we're going to pass in is the Pokemon.types. So for each individual Pokemon, it's going to check their typing against the type filters. And the final thing I need to do here is I need to change what I'm passing to the table. The table doesn't need the detail array anymore. It needs the filtered array. And If I did everything correctly, this should do the job, hopefully. I did that pretty fast. Let's see if it works. I think I did everything correctly. You never really know till you get into it. There's always unexpected things that come up. So I'm going to click grass. Good. And then I'm going to click poison. Good. It only got the grass and poison. Perfect. And that actually went way faster than I expected. So I can do the next step, which I want to make it so when they click one of these, it will delete that from our type array. So how do I remove an element from an array? Well, we're going to make a new function like we did with add type filter. It's going to be called function delete type filter. And it's going to take a type filter, which is a string, and we're going to say do the same thing as before, except we'll say if we include it, then we actually want to remove it from type filter. So type filters dot remove. Oh, we want to filter actually. Hey, we're going to use our filter again. So we're going to say we're going to do type filters dot filter, and we're going to filter it type filter. We're going to filter it by, just like we did down here with our we did with our filter here. We're going to filter it. We're going to say we're only going to include ones that don't include type filter. So we'll say because type filter is the one that should be removed. So we'll say type filter. Oh, I need to change this to something else. So because it has the same name. So I'm just going to call it filter. It's getting really confusing here because this is this. So we'll say does not equal type filter. All right, so this essentially should delete it because what it's going to do is it's going to take the type filters and it's going to filter it down to only the ones that don't include it. So if I have grass and poison and then I click poison, it's going to pass that poison into here and it's going to say, okay, grass doesn't equal poison. Okay, add that one to the list. Oh, poison equals poison. Okay, we don't add that one to the list because we're checking for inequality here. So we're seeing if these two are not equal. So now I have this function and I want to pass this function to my filters. Just like I did here, I passed add type filter. I'm going to pass delete type filter. So I copied it and now I'm going to paste it here and I'm going to get a message saying that, hey, type filters doesn't know that delete type filter is coming. So we have to go back to type filters and add that. So another prop, it's going to be delete type filters and it's going to be a function, which function type has a capital F. And then we need to add an on click here, just like we did before. So we're going to say on click. And we're going to make, before we do that, let's make our function. Function handle click. I like to create handle click functions. I think they just make things a little bit more legible than putting everything in here. Readable, I should say. I say legible, but actually the technical term is readable. Legible is like handwriting. Okay, handle click, and in here we're gonna accept the text. So we'll say text string, and then we're going to call our props.delete type filter function that we passed in, and we're gonna pass the text to that. And then here we're gonna do the same thing we did before where we create an anonymous function and we call handle click and we pass in our type filter here. And if I did everything correctly, which is a big if, I should be able to click one of these and it deletes it. And it deletes it. And now I can click fire and I can click flying and it gives me the two fire flying types. And if I remove fire, then only flying is left. And all those filters work beautifully. Now the last thing I need to do is actually import my CSS. So I'm gonna do the same thing I did before, import ... styles / mytable.css, and we're just going to add the same styling that we did before. So okay, so we need to get the class name from the other table, my table. So this same chunk of code here we can use. Go back over to here, type filters, and we'll say class name equals, and we'll put this whole thing in, and instead of input, we'll just change this whole thing to type filter. Just like that. And hopefully, and look at that. We're gonna have to do some adjustments. It looks like for some reason there's a little bit of clipping. I think it might just be because, let's see if I reset it. I'm actually not sure why the clipping is occurring, but we can always adjust later. Yeah, okay, so it just got a little extra there. So we'll have to add some extra margin, but totally fine. We'll also wanna update so that we do the same thing as we did over here with our capitalization of the first letter, but that's pretty darn good. I can click these, I can click off of them, click bug, and you know, whatever typing I want to grab, I can grab all the electric types, grab all the steel types. Wow, there's only 2 steel types in Gen 1, very interesting, all the ground types. And yeah, it makes it much easier to filter through. I think I probably want to do a little bit more styling here, probably maybe add an X button so it definitely indicates that you can click it to close it down or treat it as a button somehow. But I am very happy with the how the filtering is working. It actually worked very cleanly the first try. So probably the next video will clean things up.